hands up, but now I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. It's like I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. Oh.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to The Working Wing, the podcast where every week, we get together and share our thoughts on the world and the country from our own unique perspective. My name is Tim Schultz, and joining me, as always, my dear friend, longtime debate partner, and a man who makes William Martin Murphy look like James Connolly, Killian Collins is here. Happy St. Patty's Day, buddy. I just hit my microphone in my excitement, but happy St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, Tim, you got that full 9% Irish going out for you, just going out there to make a fight.
Yes,
you don't care.
Recently confirmed. An Irish podcast right here.
And it's funny too, because I don't know how much percent Irish exact like I am. I do know
it's a lot. It's a lot.
I do know the Collins are pretty they're a little more English mixed for an Irish family, which is that's why Michael Collins was able to do what he did. So it's there we go. That's why the British trusted him. So that's there you go. So cheers to slight assimilation and and
colonialism, baby.
Colonialism and making it work against the colonialists. But it's good to be here, Tim. It's good to see you on St. Patrick's Day. It's been a news week that has a lot of. It's kind of been one of those news weeks where it seems like history doesn't repeat itself, but it's another rhyming. It's another rhyming period.
It's a rhyming couplet in history.
Yes.
When you deregulate banks fuck up because banks are structurally and functionally incapable of managing themselves.
Well, here's the thing. Banks serve a purpose. It's just that, I think under the system that what we use them under is it's merely for profit. It's really when you're a bank, when you're managing a bank and you're managing a bank's money, really all you care about is how much profit you can make. The customers who put the money in the bank to make it thrive, they are not your priority.
No.
The only priority they are is so they can put money in there that you can spend. And that's a big difference of what you have with a public bank and what you have with any of these for-profit Silicon Valley banks or San Francisco banks. And that's the thing is that these banks that failed are big San Francisco banks. And there was a bunch of tech layoffs too this year.
There have been. So yeah, that's kind of the thing of it's two different things. One is that this bank was Silicon Valley Bank in particular has invested almost entirely in U.S. bonds.
Yep.
Which they purchased at the fucking 0% interest rate that's been going for years.
Yeah. And
in the past 6 months, interest rates have increased fucking drastically.
Which makes bonds go.
Right. Yeah. And specifically the value of their bonds.
Yes.
Because their bonds are fixed at that 0% interest rate. So no one wants them when they can get actual high interest yielding bonds.
Yep.
And so they don't have any assets anymore. And then coupled with that their main client base is Silicon Valley.
Yes.
Which has been struggling massively lately and been laying off and pulling back financially in every aspect of what they do. And they ran into some trouble.
It's almost as if there's this thing in capitalism where there's a glut or an overproduction of especially with a mass with massive advances of technology. It's almost as if there's these problems with the financial system because it's so intertwined.
Exactly. No, you make a great point, and that's important to note is that the reasons we just described are why Silicon Valley Bank was the first bank to actually fail, but Joe Biden and Janet Yellen and the head of the Swiss National Bank and the Chancellor of the Exchequer, they have all gone out in public and say, guys, we are saving the banking system. Everything's fine. And the thing is that if everything was fine, they wouldn't need to be panically just throwing billions upon billions of dollars into the banking system in order to keep it afloat.
Yeah.
If the problem was just this one mistake that Silicon Valley made and their unique position in the industry they serviced, if that was the only problem, then like Credit Suisse Bank wouldn't be on the verge of default.
Yeah.
First Republic, which isn't heavily invested in the tech industry, wouldn't be on the verge of default. There is a systematic problem in the banking system, which is that banks worth as much as $250 billion aren't undergoing like the basic stress tests. And like, hey, say there is a huge bank run on your bank, can you survive it tests that like JP Morgan Chase has to go through?
Yes. And I should also say too, is that like a lot, what really, really sucks with a lot of this is it's another, more people just end up taking their money out of like these mid-level banks or smaller banks and then putting them into the massive ones that like really don't need that extra cash. They already have all this massive capital.
That are in fact now funneling like JP Morgan Chase and the other like 5 big banks are putting in like $5 billion each.
Yeah.
Into like First Republic to keep that bank afloat.
Yeah. But
these companies have the money, but
they do, but it's also going to have to be like when it comes to them bailing the rest of their industry and the rest of like the country out, they're going to have to, they're not going to pay up. They're not going to pay their massive profits out. Which
right. And exactly. That's a great point. Yeah. They're not going to pay out. And let's talk about that because right now, no money for this is coming from taxpayers. Right now, there is a slush fund that was established as a part of Dodd-Frank for this type of situation that I think has like $150 billion or something in it.
And you're talking about that's the fund where all these banks invest into this slowly. It's kind of like an insurance where it's
it's an expansion of the FDIC. Yeah.
Okay. But here's the problem with that too, is that there's no regulation to make those banks not just pawn off that loss of profit that is them paying into that, insurance money and them just putting that onto their customers.
Yeah, bank fees and shit going up because they need to cover their operating losses from saving the banking industry.
Right. That's the type of thing where it's like, well, no, it's like, even if they act like they have this insurance, like, and it's really just a front where it's like, well, yeah, they can put in money to it, but it's like, they're going to make up for that end via you,
right?
Via you too. And on top of that, and here's the thing, I know you're going to get to this, Tim, but like right now, like I just say right now, the taxpayer isn't paying anything right now. The thing is, right now, and Joe Biden is trying to like reassure. He's trying to keep his election, chances like up by trying to get away from. No, we're not going to make a taxpayer do it. It's looking. I don't think he's going to be able to make that call because he doesn't know what the market's going to require.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. If they keep showing this fund has $150 billion in it, but if they keep having to shovel it out $50 billion at a time, how are more than 4 banks going to be in danger of default over the next couple months? I think it's very likely that they will.
It does not look good. It doesn't. Well, and because all this comes down to is just trust. Is it trust? Are you trusting that like your bank's going to be able to handle a run where people want it out of there? Like, do you want to get your money out first before that happens? Do you like it's a matter of people just trusting trusting the institution they have their money in, and then trusting whether the government will bail that institution out or not. And that's another.
I will say, like, people like you and me, the working people, we honestly don't have too much to worry on that front. The FDIC is a pretty ironclad institution.
Well, our money's basically like going through the economy. Like, we don't have any savings to keep.
Exactly. The $500 I have in my bank account is not going to like swing the economy either.
Wow, you had $500 in your. Wow, dude, look at that, Tim. Look at that.
Today was payday. All right.
as soon as bills come around, that's just gonna be gone. But that's the thing. Like if they don't have that, if they don't have like their average, like their regular worker base, like having their checking accounts that are just basically they're just drained every 2 weeks or every week, depending when you get paid. If they don't have those, then just people can't spend. And then people like that, then like you have a real economy shutdown where it's like you don't have like you have all these people who need things and they can't buy it with anything and they can't keep their money. And yeah, it's a big financial whirlwind. But either way, it's still not very good because also I was gonna say on top of that, on top of people paying, there's also as like inflation rises and as this uncertainty goes around, it's just our wages really aren't going to be rising with this happening. As we were saying with like the, with Silicon Valley layoffs and, a lot of layoffs and, the tech department in that area, it's kind of looking like that little honeymoon of post-COVID hiring is kind of becoming over in some instances.
Yeah. The stories that are coming out about like the tech industry recently have been crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, people just literally sitting around Google headquarters doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
They overhired just to deny other companies a supply of engineers. In a lot of cases, it sounds like.
Well, hey man, that's capitalism for you. It's not like actually improving a product. It's just making sure your competitors can't make a better product. Competition, baby. Libertarians, fight me on it.
And a lot of, yeah.
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Like it's like capitalism is not about competition. It's about making your competitors worse. Like that's like how most of these cats do this shit. Like the whole like fucking like all capitalism does is create these innovations in technology. It's like no, that doesn't do it. Like people do that, but it's like what competition doesn't drive people to do that because like all capitalism is going to do with that, and what competition ends up doing is just like going like, well, okay, there's no rule against me like shooting my opponent in the leg so they can't run and keep up with me. Right. And it's not even a fair race after that. It's like you're not saying you're the best athlete. You're just a cheater.
Right. Like yeah, exactly. Like when Joe Biden voted to repeal Glass-Steagall in 1999, that was framed as that the bill, I think the bill was literally titled the Increasing Competition in the Banking Sector Act.
Yeah.
And that's what they argued. And it turned out that it did create a competition to see who could throw as much money into a fire as possible.
Who can merge the fastest?
Who can merge the fastest? Who can do like fucking credit schemes the fastest?
Yes. Before another economic collapse. And I was saying that I was also thinking like with the rhyme of history, Joe Biden's kind of little like that little press conference where he walked off all that reporter was trying to ask him like a pretty reasonable question and he just completely like ignores him and just like goes away is one of like, especially right after he promises that like we're gonna bail you out without having to like raise taxes at all, don't worry, we'll make sure everyone gets their money back. And then just fucks off is just like, ooh, that's the bit of confidence and just incompetence that like really kind of reminds me of Bush in 2008, where it's him saying that like, no, for sure. Like there's not going to be a run. Like, listen to me. There's not going to be a run. Meaning in his scared eyes, it was, we cannot have a run. Like it can't happen. It's not going to happen. Almost makes you think of like the Browns, like in their 0-16 season, and their coach was going like, "We can't have another 0-16 season. Like we're not gonna.
They didn't. They won one game that season.
Right.
Congratulations, congratulations, Biden. You won one game.
Sometimes just being desperate doesn't actually make a plan come into fruition. Like that's. Sometimes being at your most desperate really does not help your situation.
So yeah, that's the precipice that we are teetering on when it comes to the financial sector. Another precipice that we seem to be teetering on, not seems to be, that we are teetering on, is one of like total environmental catastrophe worldwide, and we took a huge step back in that area this week when Joe Biden officially approved the Willow Project. Are you familiar with this story, Killian?
All I know is about Arctic drilling, and it doesn't really surprise me that Joe Biden kind of backs out on another couple of campaign promises.
And it was a very prominent moment in the campaign when he was directly asked by someone, because Biden has a very mixed record about the oil industry over his decades-long career. He was part of the we'll have a little of everything policy of the Obama administration.
Yeah.
And he said in that town hall, no new drilling on public land. Period. It's wrong. And unless. So yeah, the Willow Project is a massive new drilling project that is going to take place in the Arctic Circle. Allegedly will produce hundreds of millions of gallons of oil over the next 30 years. Allegedly, because a lot of these projects never actually produce the amount of oil that people say they will.
Yeah.
It was approved it was initially approved by Donald Trump in 2020.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden had blocked it initially and now has capitulated.
So what pushed him? That's a question. I remember during the election, during 2020, there were people that are saying, like, we're going to push Joe Biden left. Well, where are you right now? How's that going right now?
Right. Well, I should say, this has gotten a lot of traction on TikTok, apparently. I am not generally on TikTok, but apparently posts about it have gotten like millions of views on there, which is good. It's encouraging, especially amongst young people. Young people are angry about this. And so the administration lied for why they changed their tune on this is that they decided that they would lose a legal battle.
Really? Oh, you mean just like against Willow? Or
yeah, because the company doing this is a company called Philip Coco. Let me see if I have that right.
Is this land that's like in Alaska, or is this like in the Arctic Circle that not America owns or nobody?
No, this is federal land in Alaska. This is on the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska.
Okay.
ConocoPhillips, not Philip Coco. Sorry, ConocoPhillips.
ConocoPhillips, not Philip de Coco.
Not Philip de Coco.
Philip de Coco is he very good man who just produced cocoa beans from his country using child labor.
Yeah.
A regular capitalist, man. That's fine.
Also interesting to note that like part of the administration line is, well, guys, we're limiting the scope. We got them. It was supposed to be 5 drilling installations that this project had. Like, we got them down to 3. What's not usually mentioned is that these 3 will still allow them to get 90% of the oil they want. They'll just have to destroy more ground and build more pipeline.
Yeah. Oh yeah, destroy more ice, which is the key thing that we kind of need right now.
Yeah,
but because I know ain't much happening right now with nuclear fusion. I still think it looks like I think the military is still going to be generally in charge of all that. They're going to be leading the charge on.
We will see. We will see. I mean, fusion is important. I think they're going to hoard out the private industry at their first opportunity.
I would hope. I mean, we can only see, but so far with nuclear stuff right now, it's kind of, at least in America, it seems kind of military industrial complex oriented. I'm not sure about many private capitalists like
Well,
nuclear power plants.
the
Like
people
Mr.
doing
Burns.
the people actually doing the fusion research are all like public research institutes.
Oh, there you go. Like that's at least a fucking start.
But the thing is that the companies that are currently working on commercializing it are all private industry.
Okay. Less good, but you know, it's not straight up just the military industrial complex like
Right.
all over it. Like
Right. Well, and this is kind of relevant to like the Willow policy because like along with all of their milquetoast justifications for why they can't stop this, they also keep saying that like, oh, but Biden has approved X amount of hundreds of millions in tax credits to develop renewable energy.
oh
And
yeah, the buy one get one tax credit.
I hate these tax credits. I hate
Yeah.
these.
Yeah,
I hate
dude.
these business development loans that we give out that we never recoup.
Yeah.
I hate these. I just feel like there should be a system by which, because like you can have a blend, right? Like why don't we just take a ownership stake instead of just giving these companies money for free to do things that they already want to do? Like these companies aren't developing renewable energy because the government is giving them $100 million in tax credits. They're doing it because they think that they can make $100 billion off of it.
Yeah.
So if we're lending them $100 million in their startup phase, how come we don't get the same consideration that every other investor in a capitalist system gets?
Yeah.
If we put in $100 billion of their initial $500 million valuation, then the United States government should own 20% of that company.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that's exactly what I would think, especially because
that's the kind of hybrid socialized economics that the Chinese government has been practicing since the late 80s.
That's what I would think.
Done pretty well for them.
That I think you're onto something there, Tim, and it's because like you can take like it's like you can force a company to just like do things that are just better for like, because most of the time if you let these companies run independently, they're just going to do whatever is profitable, and that includes instead of making a better product, sabotaging your opponents and
exploiting consumers.
Yes, that's exactly the type of point you have with it. But if you have an industry where its entire purpose is to make the most cost effective and the best type of this that thing, then they're gonna get that result. They have a different goal orienting like what they're trying to pursue, and that makes all the difference with like what outcome you actually have.
Right,
because it's like.
And our energy sector really is like a dystopian capitalist nightmare where we give these companies monopolies without the ability to actually regulate them.
Well, without the ability to regulate them for something that's a necessity at this point, for something that like you absolutely need to live in like modern American society with. Like you absolutely require it, and if you don't, you're gonna be eons behind economically. Like that's just the fucking fact. Like it's just like if you're out there nowadays without a car and a phone, and you're just saying like, well, you're 18, you have no job experience. Well, good luck out there. You're going to be looking at some shit for quite a long time. You're going to be looking at some rough times ahead just because you don't have the startup to actually, branch out like other Americans do. Like your competition is better. Like you're disabled when you're like you can only hobble when your competition can run, which in our society, it's like, you're just another worker, like trying to like sell out your labor. And, but it is just, if us as a taxpayers we're putting money into this type of thing, we should definitely get like what we get out of it. And I think that's the type of idea these Democrats try to run with when they try to say things like, well, absolutely no drilling on public land. Them saying that like if you own land and it's private and you own it yourself and you want to drill there, fine, whatever. Or even if like, let's say you're a community and there's a bunch of liquid natural gas and there's a company that says like, well, we can do it for you, but like I would think that you as a community would be able to obligate that company for whatever stake you let them come in with or invest into them or any of this. Because like right now the system we have, it's just people like been living in their same house for 35 years. Then all of a sudden like they can like their water tastes funny and they can put a lighter to it and it goes on fire. And it's like, hey, yeah, there's a company that started fracking 4 miles down the road, and they did this to your water supply, and if you mention their name, they're going to sue you, and they have the money to do this thanks to all the liquid natural gas that they're getting. And that's what the real nightmare is it's like you really have no recourse against like how powerful these entities are. And I guess it's a really anti-libertarian episode right now, because like this all comes down to just like, yeah, like you just can't like, I believe in freedom, but you just can't let people do whatever the fuck they want, because
no,
like,
you can't. And the banking industry is an exact example, because every time we deregulate the banks, they fuck up. They drive themselves to destruction because they simply cannot be trusted to restrain themselves ever.
Well, yeah, they always want to get ahead of their competition, and so they end up taking these kind of short. They do some risky business to to make themselves
right. Well, and it's not even their competition, because like there is enough room in the U.S. banking system for all of these companies to maintain steady and credible profits.
Oh yeah,
but that is never enough in the world of American capitalism. You need growing profits.
You need to
every single year.
You need the growing profits, and you need to zero out your competition. You need to be a monopoly or close to it to be successful. And even when you reach that point, then you need to tear down everyone else trying to get at you. And that's what the horrible. And it sucks too, because like the business model for a bank is already like fucking foolproof. It
should be, yeah.
It should be foolproof completely, but it's just dumb shit being done for the hope of making a little extra cash. And that's the thing, as it comes down to these Silicon Valley bank managers who just like, they really weren't like, they just weren't sharp with this. They
were just dumb. They weren't.
Right.
They looked at the rising interest rates, and I get that, like, yes, the interest rates have risen rapidly, but like the Fed wasn't shy about what they were going to do.
No.
They've been saying like since like probably like 2001 that like, okay guys, we're gonna have to start raising interest rates at some point to combat inflation. And basically, I think from the time that the government did their $1.5 trillion stimulus bill at the start of the pandemic, economists were saying, okay, a whole bunch of money just flooded into the economy. The Fed eventually is going to raise rates.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that day was coming.
And these bank managers were just like, yeah, no, we're going to fucking sit on our hands until it's too late.
Yeah.
As long as we can keep generating good quarterly reports.
Well, and especially with their customer base too, with like, well, imagine like a decent portion of that is like, well, if they land on mortgages to some of these people who like just got laid off and they're probably trying to like get out of there, that's like, that's not good, especially if they're in that area where that's all happening. Like I mean, for them too, it's like they're sitting on their hands until like they're not being proactive, they're being reactive until this horrible situation happens where there's a potential run on them and they're nervous and they don't have trust in their customer base. They don't have trust in themselves and they're trying to get their bonds out of there, which sends the signal off to these other banks that, hey, there's potential runs going on here. And then it just gets into the trust of, do you really think like, do you think the government like is going to help your bank, which ultimately at the end of the day, like they're going to have to, like they're gonna like, they can't just let the economy fucking collapse depending on like what banks like go out. But like, they certainly don't want to have like a mid-sized to little bank like this, like cause a bigger run than what it is. But
and that's why they announced that they were guaranteeing all deposits.
Yes.
At the two banks that collapsed.
Yes.
Instead of just the FDIC limit.
Yes.
But they aren't bailing out the bank itself, and that's what Biden keeps on saying.
Yeah.
That all the shareholders of these banks are wiped out.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, and that is the way it should be. Like that is like that is the cap. That's how the stock market works, dude. Like when you lose, you lose.
Right. But the thing is that like if if JP Morgan Chase were in the same situation,
They'd
the
have to bail
government,
them out.
they would have to bail them out.
They'd have
That's what
to.
we found out in 2008.
Yeah.
They would have no choice.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a fucked up double standard. I mean, that kind of just like puts more emphasis onto like why there should be more emphasis on just like public control of banks. I mean, there's public banks, but like they don't really they don't like control industry in this country like these massive ones do.
Right, exactly. We don't have. I was listening to a finance podcast about this just the other week before we had even really heard about the banking collapses. But he was talking about how America doesn't have one central bank.
Yeah,
it has 12 central banks,
which is crazy because like you think back to the Hamilton musical, and then it's like, and like when he dies, they talk about he established a national bank, and
he did, and then Andrew Jackson killed it.
Yes, pretty much. I think South Dakota, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, any of this audience, I believe South Dakota has a state bank. It's very, I mean, it's not strange. It's just, I mean, good for them. Like, I'm glad, but I was like, oh, it's a little peculiar. They have a state bank there. It's pretty cool. Like,
yeah,
take it alone and not have it be for, hey, like as long as you don't have to open a sports bar or something to actually like get a loan. But yeah, it's something that it kind of affects us on a day-to-day basis, like energy, like banking and finance. Those things would really make more sense if there's public control. And I'd say you're probably right, Tim, with a little hybrid socialism of like partial state ownership. That would probably be like the American socialism. Like,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like, because I don't think Americans would do well with like a U.S. government bank, and nor honestly would I trust our current government completely with like full ownership of banks. They're too corrupt. Like,
they are.
They're
like I said, this is what China has been doing. Like
Yeah.
China doesn't wholly own any of its industries, but it's like we front you guys money all the time.
Yes,
and we get a cut, and if we want to, we can take control of you guys.
Oh yeah.
Whenever we need to.
And that's the type of fucking thing. I mean, if a war breaks out or something, countries are going to do that anyway. Like that would happen if America went to war. Then like the few card factories that are still here, like they turn into tank factories for a bit.
Right. The last time we were at war, the railroads were nationalized, for example. Well, World War II. Last time we were in a declared war.
In a declared, yes. Well, yeah, and the thing is as you and I know, is that like a declared war looks very, very different in America. Like that little Bill of Rights that we love, that goes bye-bye during war. So like I am not eager to have Congress declare war at all, ever. So
yeah.
Here's to like them not voting on that. But anyway, just more, yeah. Look, yeah, Faith of Megora. Yeah, those type of things that we affects us on a day-to-day basis, and the environment too. Like I can't believe I forgot the environment was still East Palestine going to shit. I didn't I watched a little bit of the little hearing they had with the head of Nordstrom Southern, and it was a fucking joke.
It was a joke. These things are always a joke.
Yeah, like it was like, I think like what's that guy who's like been sick for like, the guy who barely beat Dr. Oz and got sick right away.
Oh yeah. Fuck, I am also
like Fetterman or something.
Fetterman, yeah.
Fetterman, like the dick with ears.
Yeah,
that guy. He is a dick with ears. Like, yeah, no, they were reading off his testimony and like how much like Nordstrom's going to pay for something. They should mention the real company's name. That real company is BlackRock. That's the parent company that owns Nordstrom. That's a company that's the company that owns them. It's truly fucking evil. Like, they're the umbrella corporation. Like we can go after them. Like, I think we could stop playing this little game of like trying to make like their little like puppet company, like, you know, like make their fucking CEO like make sad faces at the camera, you know, and you know, try to like have these senators like put out like, you know, some amount of like, we're being accountable to the people there, while the people there are still going to be, they know damn well that they're going to be fucked. And like, and especially with like all the fucking defense of the EPA. And it's like, okay, so like all the Norfolk Southern guys saying is that like, well, the EPA says all the water's safe and the air's safe and all that's safe. And it's like, well, it's obviously not. Like, it's obviously not at all. So like, shouldn't there be like further investigations?
No, we've seen this. We've seen this before. We've seen this with the Superfunds sites. We've seen this with we like the corporations have manipulated the science of like chemical exposure testing itself for decades through just thousands and thousands of depositions where they just throw as much shit into the air as possible.
It's kind of like kind of makes you think about like the lawyers that the archdiocese would like throw out when they were like victims of abuse by the church, and they would like throw out these like, you know, these pseudo psychologists to be like, yeah, like repressed memories aren't real. Like, you know, these kids are just asking for it.
Speaking of St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the Iron Fist of the Church. There's a great, I've been watching this older like Irish show called like Father Ted. And it's the whole premise of the show is like they're off of like some Western coast island in like Ireland. And it's just like, priest at a like at a convent, and all it is just poking fun at Catholicism. It is pretty funny because like there's some bits I think you'd really appreciate. There's one bit where they go to like the mainland of Ireland, and like of course everyone gets in trouble. Like Father Ted has to bail everyone out like at the jail, and the warrant or the constable goes up to him and looks at him and says, well, it's $200 or they spend the night in the cell. And like Father Ted's like, I don't got that type of money. I don't got that type of fuck you. And then like his buddy Donnelly tells him like, oh, don't you like, oh, okay, that's fine. He says, okay, all right. He takes out the money and he just like has a thing. He's like, you know what? You used to do something for the Catholic Church. You used to like let a good old murderer like go to the side, you know, like let us get drunk whatever the hell we wanted to. Like goes off the tangent right away of like how good it used to be.
Yeah.
Of course, using money that he stole from the church, from alms to gamble, and then he won with it, and then he bailed out his
I probably need to check out this. I've heard of Father Ted.
It's actually like if you get past the laugh tracks, it's one of those shows that has like an incessant laugh track. But honestly, I think it's like there's some definite bits I think are fucking hilarious. Like,
yeah, I can tolerate a laugh track.
And it just depends. And some of the jokes are a little goofy, like, you know, it's that type of show, but it's also, I kind of expect that from like a bunch of men who are celibate who all live together to be kind of like boyishly annoying. Like, yeah. Like I definitely like can see that for sure, but I don't know. It was refreshing. It was refreshing. It was refreshing to see like, oh yeah, you know this bit. Everyone knows what this experience is, and we're gonna have to laugh at. There's a couple in there that's like that can't get to, because of course it's like Ireland in the 90s. It's like I think it's Ireland in the 80s, but it's like you couldn't get divorced then, so they just.
Oh yeah, no, it was like a Catholic totalitarian state for way too long in Ireland.
For sure, it was. Yeah, it way too much control over that stuff. But anyway, there's like and it's basically commentary on that type of thing. But it's a couple that like are like so abusive to each other that like every second they're on screen and the priest isn't there, they're about to like goddamn kill each other. And they're always like they're always swearing at each other and calling each other names. But as soon as Father Ted or any priest comes around, they like put the knife behind their back or any of this. Like right. Like there's all these instances where they're just like the most abusive, horrible people. And then you just think like, wow, it'd be a lot better if they just like worked together. Like, but you know, they got married and you have to give your husband a chance.
Gotta give him a chance.
Got to give him a chance. Like our president, Joe Biden. You got to give him a chance. It's been like, you know, it's been 2 years, you know, it's been 2 trying years. It's the future, you know, I'm not too optimistic. I mean, granted, they've lost Tim. They've lost Tim's faith in the Democratic Party. Like, I'm not sure who Tim will vote for in 2024. It depends what the candidacy is going to be. Depends on we still got a whole race to go through.
We have a whole race to go through.
And a lot can happen. And as we learned in the 2020 primary, a lot can happen in a couple months.
Yeah.
So
I'm leaning towards voting for myself right now. We'll see. So that was Father Ted. Everyone go check out Father Ted. a little bit of levity amid the darkness. And another bit of like good news.
Oh,
and cheer
yes!
during the darkness is that Michigan has officially repealed, not officially yet, but it's going to be repealing its right to work law.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak
just-
too early on this. It's about to repeal it, so it's like
It's done. It's done. It passed in the House. It passed in their Senate, and now it just has to go back to the House for like final revisions.
okay.
But
sweet.
Gretchen Whitmer said she's going to sign it.
Oh yeah, good.
I like Gretchen Whitmer. Like she has unveiled a aggressive policy package in Michigan since she gained control of the legislature there.
Yeah,
She has been
the key.
actually making moves.
That's the key.
Like,
I mean,
it is possible. It is possible because it's not like she has a huge majority
no.
in her legislature, but it is possible when you have full control of the legislature to make big changes if you have the political will to do so.
Yep. And for those that don't know, right to work laws are kind of a way to kill off unions from forcing people to sign into the union once they're hired into the job.
Well, actually, it's not. So basically, I was just reading about this before we started airing. Closed shops are when you have to join the union to be employed there, and those are actually illegal in the United States. They have been since 1947.
Since the Taft-Hartley Act.
Well, yeah, since the Taft-Hartley Act. But what is legal is that you don't have to join the union, but you have to pay union dues. They can require you to pay union dues to work there, even if you don't want to join the union.
Well, at that point, you might as well just join the union.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing in Taft-Hartley was like workers shouldn't be compelled to strike against their will, just if they just want to work at a place. And so the compromise was, okay, well, you don't have to strike with us, but you goddamn do have to pay into our funds.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a compromise, but it's still a shitty one. Like
it is.
Oh God! Well, that's the thing is that at that point you might as well join the union. And that's the thing. It's
you might as well. You might as well join the union.
And all I really hear about, like, there's like welding groups I'm like a part of too, and I hear a lot of people like it's a lot. As soon as someone mentions a fucking union in any of those things, people start going off on just like how much they hate unions or how much you used to work for this and all this. And I know that the thing is that like I'm not here to say that unions are perfect organizations. They're not.
No.
They're not perfect institutions. And it depends on what your leadership is. It depends what your union is. Depends what your industry is. Depends what your needs are. Depends if they're being met. Depends if you have the power to depends. A lot of factors are going into this.
It does.
And at the end of the day, your union leaders they may not have your interests at heart. And that leads to other problems too.
Right.
But there's all sorts of reasons that people get bitter about it. However, they are a tool meant that like will make the life of an employee better.
Yes, they are.
And
across the board, pretty much universally, and you can tell that because of how opposed corporations are to them across the board universally.
Yes, and most of the time, that's the deterrent for having people like do any meaningful action to make one. It's like the fear of retaliation,
right?
And
I mean, Amazon spends about $10 million per unionization effort.
Yeah,
at least minimum, and that's in Alabama. That's Alabama money that they're spending $10 million in.
That's a lot of money. That's
anti-union campaign can't cost them even more.
A lot of money cutting into their profits that could be going into like their labor force. That's making them all that money. That is the reason they're making all that money. It's not their logistical system like that. That's not it. That helps. It's a tool. But the laborers, the people who are creating that value of getting that product there, like that's what makes y'all money. That's what does it. Well, yeah,
for the moment, they are working on that.
That's why it's important to.
Once they have a picking and packing bot, then we are done for.
Well, here's the thing, man. That's another thing about capitalism. It's another glut as technology moves forward.
Self-driving forklifts, that's something I've been afraid of for years, is self-driving forklifts.
I mean, Tim, the thing is with those things, it still might be a little while. We're just gonna have to thank our lucky stars then and hope that there's less people interested in robotics in the future.
Ah!
we gotta make robotics like for nerds, or make like something else cool. Like
I remember sitting in one of the most tone deaf HR meetings I ever had. It was like an HR training session when I worked at not even Amazon, another warehouse in the Kenosha area. And the HR lady was talking about, I don't know why she was talking about this, but she was talking about the Trump tax cut and how much better Arvado was doing under Trump. And she was like, and they're on the cutting edge of technology. They're working on a robot that can pack boxes in a huge line. It's really cool. I've seen some like prototype drawing. I'm like, lady, you realize you are talking about the thing that is going to put all of us out of business, right? Yeah. Like you are basically saying like, God, telling a bunch of like doomed convicts, oh, you should see the new guillotines they're working on, guys. They're fucking they're next level.
And guess what, lady? When you're unemployed, that government's going to do
exactly.
Unemployment.
Who are you gonna HR over when we're all gone? Like your German bosses are not going to keep you around.
They have people who work harder than you in their country because they're happier and they live more fulfilling lives. So,
but interesting enough, those German bosses certainly didn't bring over any of those German labor standards.
Hell no, baby. This is America. This is America. You got a lack of regulation, unless you're in Texas, surprisingly.
Right. Like that was she was like, yeah, they're so European in the way they do stuff. It's open office and like flexible hours and flexible dress code. And I'm like, okay, so they brought that stuff over, but they haven't brought over the like guaranteed paid time off or like
maternity leave
or any of that shit. Like, no.
Yeah, no. I mean, and that's that's why these countries like come over here. I think that's like what I mean, I don't think if they really want cheap labor, they can go other places. But like, I mean, I see that with cars honestly all the time too. And I was always told that like when you get a car, look at where it's made because that'll really affect the quality of it. Like I've heard never get cars in America because like we pay our workers like shit and people are like don't care and people are like they know they're on the chopping block. So,
yeah.
Like,
well, the majority of American cars aren't even made in America.
Majority of them aren't
since the 70s.
But even when they are made here, they're made quickly, cheaply, shittily. Mexico also similar circumstances, made cheaply, shittily by people who are stressed out. Canadian and Japanese cars far better quality. Cars that are made in those countries do far better. My car was in Canada, and I was like, "Wow!" There was when I got an inspection on it, it was like, "Wow!" There's no problems on this right now. I can't believe how nice your car is. And it was a used car with quite decent amount of mileage on it too. So I mean, that's a little
interesting. Because again, like you look at this list of like vehicles that are made in Canada, there are a lot of American manufacturers on here, aren't there?
Yep, there are. I mean, that's the thing. Like, during NAFTA, like during NAFTA, when it's basically became like free range for like, hey, you can move your company like anywhere, like you can make
and still call yourself an American company,
right? Like, like how many capitalists are going to take advantage of that? Like it's like you get to make a buck without like doing anything, without like bringing any labor.
Oh, NAFTA. We need to do a whole show on NAFTA and the fucking economic death spiral that trapped what was the middle class in.
You know what I always find funny, and this is fucked up because I'm not trying to. I hate Republicans, and I'm not trying to like defend anything that they do, but I always find it really interesting that these things Republicans really want to pass, but like can't quite get around to, that we're always really fearing that they're going to do. Democrats just end up doing it. Like it's like you had like, you lost H.W. Bush, who basically like was let go of office because he said he wasn't going to raise taxes and then he had to do it and he did it. And then you go to like Bill Clinton.
One of the first things Bill Clinton did was raise taxes.
Right. Like he continues to do that. And then Bill Clinton comes in and like and like, what does he do? Like that George H.W. Bush like would have dreamed of doing. Oh, a 94 crime bill. Oh, like the Republicans' wet dream. Like
Yeah.
Reagan would have loved to do.
Well, the 94 crime bill, like mandatory minimums were introduced under Reagan by Joe Biden and then expanded upon in 94 by Joe Biden.
Right. Like it's basically a continuation of that legacy. And then on top of that, it's NAFTA too. It's like I don't know if
Reagan was trying to get NAFTA done. HW was trying to get NAFTA on. Clinton and Gore and Biden got NAFTA done.
Yes. But the thing is that like there was some more opposition to those Republicans like from the left. But then like once they had like a liberal to help them pass this, they actually got it done because they didn't have their opposition. Right. Their opposition party agreed with it.
I like going back and looking at like Reagan era bills because like people forget this, but like Reagan's largest tax cut passed 92-8 in the Senate. 92-8.
It was a pretty heavy Republican Congress, if I remember.
Right, but like again, only 8 Democrats in the Senate out of like 40 something voted against the tax cut. Chuck Schumer voted for it. Joe Biden voted for it. Nancy Pelosi voted for it. Like these are the people who have been leading the Democratic Party for years. You go look at the repealing Dodd-Frank. Again, you'll see the same names. Nancy Pelosi voted for it. Joe Biden voted for it. Chuck Schumer voted for it. This is who has been running the Democratic Party. And this is why, like, I get so mad when people are like, working people are so dumb for voting against the Democrats. And I'm like, well, again, if you're a working class person in the 80s who didn't want to give tax cuts to rich people, who the fuck were you supposed to vote for? Who? Tell me. Like, there was no one. Yeah. That was going to happen because the rich people of this country wanted it to happen.
And that's how you get these washes like Trump versus Hillary or Trump versus Biden, where it's like, well, do you want like
one is obviously crazier and more dangerous than the other, but it's not like the other one is good.
No,
it's not
right.
Like the other one is going to benefit me in any way. The other one is just scarier.
Like, that's the thing. The only thing that you have, and that the scarier is subjective too, because like, because all the Trump was doing is just like pretending to be the outsider. I mean, like he's in on more stuff, but he's outside of that political elite circle. Like he had to like force his way into that, but like it's not like that was really like the only appeal of that type of thing. And people see like an obvious opposition and like, then they decide to give a fucking game show host a chance. Like that's what the scary part is it's like, but then like the Democratic Party looks around and says, well, we just need to lie better to actually get voters. And it's like, that's not the case. Like you guys actually need to like change your policy and change your tune, but they're not willing to do that because their cash cow keeps their party alive is their donors who they do anything for. And if they don't do anything for them, they're worried that they're going to go to their opposition.
Yes.
And then they're worried they're going to lose because of that, because they have no faith in the American people. Like
But anyways, Gretchen Whitmer though, you can get stuff done. You can repeal right to work if you have some actual balls.
Well, you also, I mean, and no shade onto you, Tony Evers. We also know that like you're.
Well, yeah, exactly. You need control of the legislature, which I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Supreme Court race and redistricting. But under our current district map, Republicans are just going to control Wisconsin's legislature.
Oh yeah, and it's a shame too because I would like to see more local stuff happening. Like I'd like to see more stuff in Wisconsin that would like kind of animate people who would be. Because the thing is, it's like there's a lot of red areas in Wisconsin that are suffering, they're economically destitute, that really don't have like much of a prosperous area. You can only work in a couple of places in the area you're living in, depending on where you live. I mean, like we live in more urban areas, so like we can find there's employment.
Well, I live in our I do have a Democratic state representative, but like for federally, I live in Wisconsin's 1st district, home of Paul Ryan, and now Brian Steele was his handpicked toady replacement.
Yeah.
And he just keeps getting reelected like clockwork because Kenosha votes against him, but the rest of the county doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's gerrymandering for you too. That's a good old amount of any of that there too. But I mean, well, I think what I'm trying to get at too is that like maybe there needs to be other issues that are more popularized.
Yeah.
Like
I was going to say, like, I was paying close attention to like the state legislature results from right next door in Pleasant Prairie. But the Republican from Pleasant Prairie was reelected in the landslide again, even these past 2 election cycles. And I feel like as far as like catastrophic events that directly hurt the people of a community that would like make them change their mind, like I feel like Foxconn is a pretty big and direct one.
I feel like it would be too, especially like
people were literally forced out of their home at gunpoint in order to make room for this corporation that hasn't met any of its promises.
That was a fucking.
And Pleasant Prairie just refuses to punish the people who were behind that.
Yeah, that was like for this for this forced like project like for that was based. It was basically a big money laundering scheme. That's what it kind of looks like to me.
Yeah,
like
was it Pleasant Prairie or Mount Pleasant? I can't forget. I always get those 2 mixed up. They're right.
I think it's Mount Pleasant. You're thinking of
Mount Pleasant. Yes, Mount
Pleasant. Yeah, Mount Pleasant is what you're thinking of. But yeah, no, there's Foxconn building downtown Milwaukee that is, I kind of sneer at every fucking time I see it too. It's just another handout of the legacy of Scott. Fuck you. The loss is always bitter. Walker.
Yeah.
Hope I never see him again.
Well, and the other thing, I mean, this is a total tangent, but like a lot of those big building projects that have like decimated entire communities in big cities are now themselves on the verge of bankruptcy because all their tenants left after the work from home revolution. Like some of the biggest resorts in the country are going to be defaulting on huge loans because all their tenants have left over the past 3 years.
What are you gonna
do? What you gonna do?
I mean, I also know like I would like more Republicans to make marijuana like a core issue. That would be nice. Like, because I know people.
I want Democrats to make. I want Joe Biden to make marijuana a core fucking issue.
Oh, it would, but I think he gets too much money. I think he's too in with military industrial company. I think there's also credit card companies that are really reluctant to get in bed.
Credit card companies are like such a weird fucking like conservative shithole of like an economic powerhouse.
Yes,
it drives me crazy whenever I study, because whenever I read about like the porn industry and the finance of like the porn industry, it just has me scratching my head. It's been decades since the mop was in there, but credit companies, card companies are still won't touch the porn industry with like a 10-foot pole.
Right. And if anyone like makes any money sexually by like using one of their devices at all, like any form of transferring money at all used by these people.
Yeah, no, there's like a crazy like shadow censorship program maintained by like credit card companies of like things you can say or do in porn. It's never written down anywhere, but it's like everyone kind of knows, and it's like girls on their period cannot like appear on camera bottomless, or a credit card company will like demonetize you.
For all
like
it's
bizarre. It's bizarre. It's fucking bizarre. Like
but animated tentacle stuff, that's fine. Like
that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. That's a drawing. God. Oh my Lord. I mean, and that's weird. Like this conservative cesspool about it. I mean, yeah, that's why I think Joe Biden, like, and kind of like the neocon libs are kind of on that because there's moneyed interest for them to like, not before that. But with Republicans, it's like I would think that just the whole entrepreneurial spirit of like, well, why is this substance that I see many Republicans?
I mean, that's what got Ron Paul like in the mouths of college students all across the country in 2008. That's why I had 6 libertarian friends in 2008.
Yeah,
because Ron Paul was talking about legalizing marijuana.
And that's it. And that's the thing. Like, Ron Paul's an idiot, but like
Ron Paul's a fucking idiot and a racist and a horrible person in general. But all he had to do was say legalize pot, and he had like leftist kids all over the country being like, "Yeah, man, Ron Paul."
Well, no, he turned them into libertarians. Like that's what the shit.
Yeah, really turned that. Yeah, I don't think he really turned them into libertarians.
I don't think most people. I don't think
none of these people understood. Yeah, none of these people understood what libertarianism was.
But I get that, Tim. But like, all I'm trying to say is that like they went further to the right. They went to the dissenting opinions of like the right wing because Ron Paul was occupying that lane that no one else was fucking taking. That like pretty much like there's like Green Party people and shit that were doing that, but they're kind of lukewarm on fucking everything else already. And the Democratic Party wasn't gonna fucking touch it. Like they're still too like they were still like barely dipping their toes into like like marriage equality. So like
it was a different time back then. Like California hadn't even legalized back then.
Yeah,
that was a different landscape. But now I don't understand what's holding people up.
I mean, when I've heard like state senators like say anything like that in Wisconsin, they always try to cite bullshit about like, oh, I know an ER professional that knows like how harmful marijuana is, which mostly people just need to attack it on the alcohol thing. I'm just why do you allow the
in Wisconsin specifically? We are paid like even the Democrats are paid off by the Tavern League.
Yeah,
which is one of the more powerful lobbying groups in our state.
Really crazy. It kind of makes you like not want.
And the breweries. I mean, the breweries can't be discounted too, but the Tavern League has a lot of power.
Yeah, makes you want to drink at home from someone like makes you want to like shop outside of Wisconsin for beer and then drink at home at a bar instead of a bar. At your homemade basement bar.
Yeah.
That's what it makes you want to do. And here's the thing, I just don't get it with the Tavern Leagues. It's just like, well, guys, like if you're worried about people going home and smoking pot, then just like sell this shit at your fucking job. Like sell this shit at your fucking bar. Like I've seen facilities that are like bar and liquor stores that sell cigarettes and stuff. It's like, yeah, just get a license for the shit and like sell it there. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So, I mean, if you don't want to get that into it and make it a full dispensary thing, then like buy like single rolls or something. Like shit, there's already an industry ready to go for you. There's already companies that are pretty much setting up shop for CBD in Wisconsin because they're hankering.
Oh, in Kenosha there are like 5 different head shops and like CBD oil shops that are ready in a second to become full-on dispensaries.
And I ain't ever gonna fucking go to those things. Like I'm never gonna go to those things because it's like I have no reason to. Like, but they're just sitting around. Like the fact that they even exist and like, I mean, that just tells me that like, well, someone's having an idea about like, because these are companies that are like from like not just inside the state, but like are from around the country trying to just get a foothold in here. So like they make sure that their store has it. Like the question I'm thinking is, it's like, well, how smart like were they just making like a quick investment, thinking that like, oh, CBD is legal now, it's like on the short path to have that happen. Like, do they know? Did they have people on the inside that know things that we don't? like that's kind of what I start thinking. If it's like a company's willing to like invest this kind of money in something that just seems to be a money pit, and like with really no prospect of like anything like happening that we can see, like what do they know under the surface? Is my question, because like nothing looks like it's gonna like happen, and I have a store that's just gonna be losing money selling a product that nobody fucking wants. Then like I wouldn't invest in keeping a store open for that, just to have some real estate for potentially something to happen that doesn't look likely, at least in this state. Because like I think the most likely thing after that is because like the federal thing can happen so quickly. It's just a matter of like having a president, which is like that was a big reason I didn't vote for Joe Biden. Is it's like, well, I can compromise a lot of other bullshit if you just legalize it. If you just like have that out there. I compromised a lot of bullshit, and a lot of people would. But granted, it's a one-trick pony, because once you do it, you can't do it again unless you bring prohibition back. But now it's only prohibitions allowed in like several states and where the feds feel like enforcing it. So.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So
little bit of talk about green on St. Patrick's Day, you know.
Green on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Hashtag legalize it.
Nationally, federal,
nationally,
not just federally. Don't just relate. Don't have them release all the nonviolent weed offenders, like every state.
And actually legalize it federally. What I don't want is a situation where they're like, we're going to turn it over to the states to decide about weed. Because then, like, no, just make it federally legal. Say weed is legal in America.
The way that it was made federally illegal, like the same way, the same way. Like, don't do this bullshit about like letting states do whatever the fuck they want again. You know, another libertarian concept that makes me want to fight them.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all for us.
That's all for
this week. Do you have anything else going?
I just, we've already been on for an hour. We've
gone, like, we've low-key gone for an hour.
Yeah,
we have a habit of doing that.
We do. I mean, I'm not sure if you've watched at all, like any of the Matt Taibbi's with the special subcommittee that Jim Jordan had. It was a clown show. I don't know if you watched that at all, but it was a fucking clown show. Yeah, it had.
That's because all parties involved are clowns. Elon and Matt Taibbi are clowns. Jim Jordan is a clown.
I mean, I think Jim Jordan's a clown. I think Matt Taibbi is just trying to do like just trying to report shit. Like, and granted,
he's definitely not. He's definitely not just trying to report shit.
Like, what do you think his special interest is? Like,
his special interest is that he built his, basically Elon was like, hey, Matt Taibbi, do you want your name in a whole bunch of national headlines? Here, write the story I want to on my platform. Yeah, and you'll be in the headlines. Yeah, working that closely with the subject of what you're reporting on means that you are not objective.
So any whistleblower that like works with like that, like
right. Well, yeah. When you're writing about Rupert Murdoch in the fucking Wall Street Journal, no, you're not unbiased there.
Well, I mean, I mean, like, yeah. I mean, Tim, like, what basically what you're saying then is that if any journalist has any amount of success, then I'm saying
that when you negotiate a deal to release your report on the platform that you're reporting on, you are not unbiased. I'm saying that if Rupert Murdoch has his writer read a story about him that's only going to be published in his journal, then that is not an unbiased report about Rupert Murdoch. So
you're saying that that Matt Taibbi is like directly working for Elon Musk because he's releasing it and because honestly, all that's happening so far is like Matt Taibbi's releasing like what he feels like releasing. Like that's like
he says he's released, saying that he says what he said is Elon Musk gave me access to his Twitter documents with conditions.
Well,
which means he's not an unbiased reporter.
I mean that happens all the time with any of these people who like work with a different whistleblower, like this, that, or the other thing. And like the thing is, it's like, yeah, Elon Musk owns it, and like so henceforth he has like access and ability to do that, and that's why we're able to kind of like make the connections of like, well, yeah, he's not naming the source, but you can it's not a Scooby-Doo mystery.
No, he said he has named the source. He said his source for everything is Elon Musk.
When do you say that?
He said Elon Musk is the one who gave him all the stuff that he's reporting on. He's always said that Elon Musk is his source. It's not like he's talking to like whistleblowers inside Twitter. He's working with the owner of Twitter to write about Twitter on Twitter.
No, but
it's not like he's some like intrepid gumshoe doing investigative reporting on like industrial conditions in the early 20s. It's not like he's dodging Elon's goons to like get the scoop. He is working with Elon to report about Elon's company and publishing it on Elon's platform.
Well, to be fair, he's publishing about the company before Elon owned it. Like that. That's
when the owner of a company gives you stuff to report on that company and then says you can only have this if you agree to work with me and post it on my platform. That is not unbiased journalism. That is not independent. That is not independent journalism. I'll tell you that much for sure. Doing work on behalf of a multi-billion-dollar
what's his
company
goal?
For that $billion.
What's his goal?
His goal is the goal of everyone who works with big companies. He wants money and he wants fame.
Okay, but Tim,
if you were doing this as an independent journalist, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But he's not an independent journalist
because he's working. Wait, because like he's publishing it on Twitter, he's not an independent journalist.
Yes.
I mean, like Twitter. I mean, we've talked about this before, Tim. Twitter just seems to be like a way to amplify all these things, and especially if you're talking about the platform, it would make sense just to put it out on that too. And I'm not sure about these conditions and stuff you've talked about, or even him naming him as the source, like out front. Because when I was watching at the hearing,
Elon gave him all this shit. You said Elon invited him to like take a look at Twitter's files and write about it, but only on Twitter. That's contracted journalism.
When did he say that?
He said it. He said it at the start of the entire like that was the whole process of his entire project. He said, "I'm publishing this on Twitter because Elon let me look at Twitter's files, aka I am not an independent journalist in this matter."
Well, but so basically, you're just saying any journalist that like
any journalist that works, yes, any journalist that like comes to an agreement with a company about the scope of their reporting and how they are going to release that reporting is not an independent journalist.
So what would you call him then, Tim?
I would call him a writer for Twitter at this point. I honestly would. I would identify him as Matt Taibbi. Oh, that guy who writes quote unquote journalism for Twitter.
Okay, I mean, but Tim, the still is the fact of the matter is that these documents he's releasing like are real. Like
they are real by his interpretation. But again, he hasn't released all of his files. He is making editorial decisions about what he has published, and he is doing that according to his bias, which is that he is working with Elon Musk on this project.
Well. I mean, that's the thing, Tim. Like everything you're speculating about that. I mean, like, but
I'm not speculating. I am saying the fact. Like, what was wrong there? Like, what was speculation there?
Well, Tim, because what you're saying is that it's of the bias of like what you're trying to portray is it's the bias that Elon Musk completely has. And I haven't heard that stuff about like what conditions he gave him or any of that because we don't know what conditions are.
Well, again, if you have any conditions about the subject, about what you're writing on, you're not independent.
So if you have a condition of like I can't mention kids or something, then it's like, well, then like you're being editorialized, you're not independent,
right? Or saying yeah, I will. No, or just saying yes, Elon, I will release this on Twitter for you to have access to and complete control of and oversight of. Then like no, that is not independent journalism.
I mean, but he's also releasing it on his own platforms too. Matt Taibbi is, but like that's the thing is it's like, yeah, he's like Elon Musk definitely has an agenda here. Like, it's like, yeah, for sure. And he's using Matt Taibbi to further an agenda with the information that he's giving him. Because there's a lot of other shit that I'd like to see that like isn't released yet. Some of it might just be like Matt Taibbi doesn't have those files yet. He doesn't have
or he has all the files and he's only released the stuff that is suits his and Elon's agenda.
But that's the thing, Tim. Like we don't know like which it is between the two of us. Like you say it's all of it. And you seem pretty convinced about it. And it's like, you kind of seem, it's like, well, no, like he just wanted to grift his way up and like have like a major story to jump off. I mean, like Matt Taibbi is already pretty fucking famous. Like he's already a pretty famous journalist. And like, I don't really see like,
I mean, I had certainly never heard of him before this.
I mean, like he was a big, he's been around for a while, man. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner too. So it's like the journalism world like knows about him, but I mean, for whatever reason, like, yeah, Elon Musk chooses him and other journalists too. But I mean, like, all I'm trying to get at is the congressional hearing was ridiculous. And it's ridiculous from the standpoint of like looking at the Republicans and the Democrats too. Because the Democrats these days are like, at least, especially with the hearing they had there, they had a congresswoman named, what was her name? She was a representative from the Virgin Islands. And like she basically has votes that don't really matter in anything. Like if it's a tie,
she doesn't have an actual vote. She has a observational position, like the representative from DC.
Right, and she was grilling them on saying like where you got the source of the emails from, which she, it's you can figure the shit out, but like she's trying to get him to confirm it, and it's like it's a ridiculous back and forth where like Jim Jordan thinks he's got an own on her. Like Jim Jordan's doing the pretend populism thing where it's like these Democrats don't even care about free speech at all. They like you really think that that's what this? And it's like, yeah, that's true, Jordan. That's pretty shitty. But I also know when the shoe's on the other foot, that like you'll be trying to censor like or try to say like try to protect the American public and American children against any form of censorship that you really any speech that you find dismaying to what your agenda is. And that's kind of at the end of the day is like what I'm really seeing about this is that like, yeah, it's a hearing where the establishment overall is trying to take sides and like play bad defense at letting the intelligence agencies kind of say what they want to say to these big social media platforms. Cause it's not just Twitter either. It's Google's a part of this too. Like Alphabet's a part of this.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, cause it's not limited to just Twitter and it's about more than just like the Hunter Biden issues. Cause it's like, that's just one issue that Republicans are bringing up a lot. And it's like, and as you mentioned before, Tim, it's like the story still got around. And
the story was still on Twitter. It wasn't censored from Twitter. Like that's the thing is I think people who say that Twitter was practicing censorship do not understand the definition of censorship.
But Tim, the thing is though, is that what do you call it when it's just labeled as misinformation falsely? What do you call it then?
I would call that an editorial decision that was retracted.
And it was wrong.
And it was wrong.
And it was during the election, like, which is pretty important.
And it was recalled within 24 hours, and the story still spread like wildfire.
But the misinformation factor stuck on it until it was proven after the election.
It wasn't proven after the election.
It was.
They removed the misinformation claim within 24 hours of the story because they knew at that time that it wasn't misinformation. I don't know on what grounds you say it wasn't proven misinformation. It wasn't proven not misinformation until after the election. That's not true. It was everyone saw the story. Twitter labeled it as misinformation for 24 hours, and then they said, "No, actually, this is legit." But it just did not matter in the election because our politics have gotten to the point that no one gave a fuck about Hunter Biden.
Tim, I don't think it mattered in the election either. That's what the Republicans are trying to jam up on. But you have to admit, Tim, either way, when you have it like being labeled as Russian disinformation right away, like it
for 24 hours, for a grand total of 24 hours.
But the fact that a major social media platform does that falsely is
for
like
24 hours.
It's still, but yeah, but Tim, the fact they did it in the first place is still like, that's still a huge red flag. Like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if it comes back. It's the fact that it's like it even happened in the fucking first place. Like, you know, because it's really just kind of picking and choosing stuff that like you just don't want to get out. Stuff that like stuff that they know is true even. Like that now it's possible they might not have know it was true. They might have like, had some other intelligence telling them something otherwise. I don't believe that, but to give this somewhat of the benefit of the doubt. But like, yeah, all I'm trying to get at, Tim, is that this shit.
Like, what's the alternative? Because like Twitter is a private company. They have a right to determine like what content is on their platform and what isn't. Right? Like they ethics aside, if they wanted to just remove that story from their platform, they were within their legal rights to do so. They are not a government entity. They are a private one. So unless the solution is to nationalize social media, which I don't think is a solution.
Yeah, it's something to talk about, Tim, because it's like it's
like going back to the porn thing and like the sex workers thing. Are the millions of people who have like sex work careers that they conduct over social media, are they suddenly going to have to are they going to be under the direct control of like the U.S. House of Representatives? Because I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it depends, and that could all be talked about. It could be the partial ownership type of thing too. It could be for some things like Twitter, where it's less, there's like you don't have as much imagery involved, or it's more limited. Like you could have certain companies be included in this and then not included. Like you'd have to definitely make some industry come together with this. But right now it's a system where it's a private entity that like says that no, we don't take orders from the government, but they totally do. Because under threat of like, hey, Congress is going to do something.
Well, that's the thing is, I read the Twitter files, and like there were no threats from the FBI. Like that's the thing that they don't have in the Twitter files. They don't have any instance of the FBI saying do this or else, do that or else, do this or else. All they did was, hey, like basically, like I said, the FBI was working as like free content moderators for Twitter, which is weird and maybe not a good thing, but
not
like
at all. Well, because why would they be invested in doing that? Why would the government take their resources and like start trying to tell like a private company like what they should allow?
Well, no, they weren't saying this is what you should and shouldn't allow. They were just forwarding content and being like, hey, this violates the rules that you have like posted on your site. They weren't saying you should make a rule banning this or banning that. They were saying you already have a rule banning this, and here's a tweet that violates that rule.
Well, but that's kind of the cover of what the Democrats are saying, because like what they were also doing.
That's what the Twitter files show. That's what Matt Taibbi,
but here's also
the journalist was saying.
But Tim, also what the Twitter files were saying too is that they were also like putting forth accounts that did not have misinformation and were saying that this is misinformation here. You should think about this. Oh yeah, like we have this person on a list. You should think about this. Oh, we have these people on special lists. They're misinformation people. Like that's also what was revealed on the Twitter files, where it's like they're suggesting accounts where they're saying like, oh well, the DHS is saying that so and so is a misinformation terrorist. So
I know what list you're talking about, but there's no evidence that Twitter ever took that list into account.
I mean, they never took into account.
Yeah. Like
they can't shadow ban people. They can't like they
do shadow ban people, and they've always had a policy of shadow banning people.
Right.
But like again, if you look at like the people that Twitter shadow banned and the people who are on that extra governmental list you're talking about, there's really not that much correlation.
There's not that much, but there's correlation.
No, there's yeah, because those accounts have posted misinformation, so they were shadow banned. Like it's not like either of these lists were like just making stuff up out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, the thing is that some of these lists are just have inconvenient truths for what the DHS and what the FBI.
Hit me with an example here.
Okay. The stuff about the Russian-Ukraine war. That's one example right there. Like there's definitely stuff from like other accounts that have been called like, well, this is like they're more sided towards Russia and we're not going to allow that type of thing, or we're going to shadow ban it so it's harder to find. Like that's a pretty good example that I'm pretty sure that they're doing. I'm pretty sure they're doing that with like
right.
At least
Russia has been put out. Yes, Russia has been putting. I know you don't want to admit that Russia has been putting out a bunch of propaganda and misinformation about their war.
Like we're doing. Like, we don't have to get into Ukraine here. We got to wait for a moderator for that. We do have to wait for a moderator.
We do have to wait. We've been going for 80 minutes now.
Because I just wanted to mention a quick thing about Matt Taibbi, and I know, Tim, you can't let things go. So that's it. That's it.
So a little classic taste of Working Wing here.
Yeah. What got us all started, really? Like, if it's like we're not two Irish guys arguing about fucking about like what some journalists we've never met's intents are. Like, it wouldn't be a Working Wing episode. We would be here trying to entertain none of you right now to do this.
Yeah. All right. A quick shout out. Thanks to James Kuka for our incredible theme music.
Yep.
Check his stuff out at Bandcamp. And thank you, Jennifer Much, for our logo. Check her stuff out for all of your visual design needs. I think that's all for us. So until next time, keep working.
Keep on working.